Lucerne brand, Dairy Gold brand, all that. And looking at the ingredient lists, it's carrageenan, which is a thickening agent which comes from a red algae, which is known to cause stomach diseases. But last time I looked at Wikipedia, that causing stomach diseases part had been removed, which often does happen with unhealthy things that have huge money behind their production, and businesses whose livelihood depends on not having their product slandered, even if the slander is correct and helps people be more healthy. So companies that create products like that, and things using artificial flavors, for example, which is derived from coal tar, or artificial colors derived from coal tar that causes cancer and is known to cause cancer. But that is legal, according to the FDA. And I just looked up vanillin also last night, and that is also a petrochemical derivative. And a lot of these, it's like, if I were to drill deep into the ground and come across an oily black goo, which was the remains of ancient creatures that had decomposed so much, and plants decomposed so much that they were a black goo, I would not think that that was food. And it's very obvious to me that that's not food. And so when humans eat that and it causes cancer, it makes total sense to me, because it's not supposed to be food. And so when I come across a product like that, where it is artificial colors to do its coloring, and its coloring doesn't impact taste for me, it's like they're putting in a thing that causes cancer so that their bottom line is bigger. And in A/B testing, where they test one with the colors and the other without the colors, and people buy more with the colors than they put in the colors, the thing is that they're doing that at the expense of the people who buy their products' health. That to me is immoral. And that means that they are a predatory company, which is caring about their bottom line, not about the health of the people that they are creating their goods for. So that's the non-symbiosis. That's the one where, like, I see the ingredient list from a company and I see the things that are known to cause diseases and worse, and it just puts a certain energy on that company where I can tell it's not adding its ingredients for my good. Is doing it for profit, with me being the harvested creature, if it can get its talons in me. So, yeah, I don't eat food like that. And I think no one should. It should not be acceptable, and it should fade away in place of food that is healthy and values the person that is eating it. And there are things like subsidization. I recently read about high fructose corn syrup, which is a facet of the gajillion dollar American subsidized corn industry, which can produce its corn goods cheaper than any country ever anywhere, because it is highly subsidized by the government. Which basically means that politicians who are in the pockets of these giant corporate interests, and if they aren't, then the corporate interests just spend money until they get in politicians that are. So they up their subsidies and basically give themselves money to produce their things. And what that does is they can make things so cheap that people in other countries cannot produce the things as cheap. Cannot produce corn, whatever the product is. The cost of production is less than the cost that the American producers, or people in whichever country is subsidizing the good, can sell on a foreign market. And there are countries, just Wikipedia, agricultural subsidy, and this is straight from that. Researched it a long time ago, came across it again a few days ago. Like Haiti was doing good and was independent, had thrown off the colonizers, and was like the first black country to successfully win and be black and throw off its bad guys that were controlling it. And then America convinced them of free trade. And then American subsidized goods came in cheaper than anything they could produce locally, and local farmers ran out of work and could not sell their local produce because foreign produce coming in from America was much cheaper. And this happened all through all sorts of different developing nations. It's a bunch of stuff on Africa also. Also from that Wikipedia, it says 1% increase in Africa's exports would be about 5 times the amount Africa as a whole receives in foreign aid per year. And yeah, like getting the people to donate while infinite billion-dollar multinational corporations are siphoning the wealth out. It feels sort of wrong. Like, it isn't the people's fault, it's the multinational corporations' fault. And they're pretty much blinded by greed, and they have a bottom line and stock owners that matter. And if the owners of the companies don't care about that bottom line, then the stock market gets in ones that do. So high fructose corn syrup, was also reading about this one, and how America, and yeah, it makes America sound bad, but it's really just the people at the top in governments that are owned by corporations. So, Mexico tried to tax all beverages not sweetened with sugar, which would do a blow toward American high fructose corn syrup going into Mexico, which was dominating its market. And so America appealed to the World Trade Organization, and the World Trade Organization said that Mexico could not do that because it was discriminatory against American high fructose corn syrup. So what is that? I don't like to use bad words, but symbolically, that's rape. That is Mexico saying no, that it wants America to stop with the high fructose corn syrup and forcing it on Mexico, and that it's just undercutting everything Mexico can do itself. And then America, and yeah, this is where it makes America seem bad, but it's really just the politicians at the top, all through the world, controlled by multinational corporate interests behind the scenes. And so American power over the World Trade Organization, really corporate power. Yeah, I keep saying this because America itself seems like the enemy in this situation, but it's just the system is bad. And if it was the UK or whoever else with these subsidies, they would just as strongly be pushing if they had control of the World Trade Organization. And so, yeah, Mexico saying, no, we don't want that, and America saying, no, you do, and then forcing Mexico open to accept America's stuff and drain out Mexico's wealth. Yeah, symbolically, that is called rape. And just saying that, it sort of shows the morality of what is happening. And it isn't what should be happening. So, yeah, anyway. So that's the non-symbiosis that needs to change about our world for it to be a better place and worthy of us, the people inhabiting it. Which does take changes, holistic changes to government and all sorts of things. And yeah, it shouldn't be the people at the top are more controlled by evil interests that do things for profit at the expense of the people and morality in general. It should be the people with more power are better and better as it goes up, instead of the exact opposite. It's sort of interesting how the world works and how it should work. So, and there's our girl, which we'll have to protect. Because a lot of scientists and smart people come up with things like this. And yeah, first scientist I read about, some guy in the USSR, who's doing stuff with genetics, pushing forward the field, and he got suicided. And yeah, that happens when people in places of power or people with social power start spreading their ideas, and they are against those with infinite money controlling things. Which is why I will also make all my own food after a certain point, and why everyone should. So, yeah. That's the stuff that I see around here a lot, because this is a region of poverty where people are predatory on others and people harm others for personal gain, and people grow thick walls to be able to do that. And so I recently came across a story which was heartwarming because it was the opposite. I've been getting heavily into genetic modification and engineering and refreshing myself on mRNA, tRNA. Yeah, like what's the difference between those? Transfer RNA, messenger RNA. Transfer RNA is the section on messenger RNA that tells the thing that it's going to that it's messenger RNA, and then messenger RNA is the message. So, messenger RNA. I was reading the origin of that, and Francis Crick and James Watson and a whole bunch of other people. So, most notable for DNA discovering or theorizing the double helix from Rosalind Franklin and whoever else's research. So, it's fun Wikipediaing these articles because I occasionally come across things with Francis Crick. And I see sort of the path he took in his theorizing and discoveries. And it is cool. And he's a cool guy. I like all the quotes and all the things he's done that I've come across so far. So, he and a bunch of guys in some college, like Lion College or something. It was a cool name. And he, with some other people, came up with a theory of mRNA based on various info the other people were presenting. And they came up with a theory, and then James Watson, from somewhere else, said that his group was behind them, but doing similar experiments. And so he asked Crick and Crick's guys to, and yeah, it was sort of guys more than girls, because gender stuff hadn't fully caught up yet. Though it is nice coming across the occasional, like, woman in 1950 something who was the first one to discover that genes could switch places. And anyway, so Francis Crick responded to Watson's request to delay their paper by delaying their paper, of course. And a month later, in that issue of Nature, they simultaneously released their reports. And so that's the opposite of the predatory selfishness that pervades a lot of society and seems to be a normal way among many. Where it's instead like holding down a hand to raise someone else up. And that, I think, is what the world needs, and what needs to be more of a norm. And stories like this, and where stories of the multinational corporations selfishly doing things to harm people needs to fade away and be viewed negatively, while stories like Watson Crick number 2 needs to be viewed positively. And that is the direction our world should head. Something else I was thinking about video games is, so in a perfect world, we should have no one being predatory on anyone else. However, it's still good to have defenses as a civilization. And a way to do this, while maintaining the symbiosis perfectly, is video games. That's like an ultimate purpose of video games, is I can play this game and totally outplay people, and it'll be great, and all sorts of people will cheer and be like, yes, good outplay there. And then I can shake hands with them and be like, good game. And not hurt a single person in real life. And there's nothing bad with that on the entire thing. The entire situation, everything is good. And it trains the ability to, if there were invaders, to win. Yeah, I used to be for video games, and then I played them too much, and then against video games, and now I have this happy pro video games, as long as one is achieving a ton of stuff, more than they would otherwise. That is the important part. But that being said, they can train things like teamwork, strategy, outplaying people, all sorts of things that are hard to otherwise come by at the levels that they're come byable in video games. So I'd raise a kid specifically with video games as a good thing, but with these rules, that is the thing that helps, and that got to be improving and growing super fast with them. Faster with them than without, but not delaying otherwise either. So, Symbiosis world, here we come.